Seneca Lake in upstate New York, my favorite spot on the earth, is known for waterfalls, wineries, the racetrack, so much more, but also there are some mysteries in the history of Seneca Lake. So here's another twist. Apparently in the 1960s, there were many UFO sightings over Seneca Lake, and this is one of those stories. I found a newspaper article that was dated October 21st, 1973 in the Elmira Star-Gazette, and it talks about UFOs have splashed down in Seneca Lake, and it talks about how it remains a mystery. And the whole article was written kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, the nuts are on the loose again. But listen to this story. It says, things are looking up. It's flying saucer time. And it goes on to say, throughout the years, weird reports came from many parts of the nation, but this area has held its own with sightings of slow-moving, glowing objects in the sky, flickering lights, and even strange-looking extraterrestrial beings. So I met a man. I was showing him a house in Watkins Glen, and he happened to be sharing this story. So tune into this.
Well, this occurred, I believe it was, it was probably 1961 or 1962. I think I was 13 years old. And my friend and I, when we meet, he doesn't live in town anymore. We always talk about the incident. We were walking down towards Captain Bill's, and we looked above the dock, and it was about maybe 100 feet in the air, not very much, and we saw this light, this sphere that had a green, red, yellow, blue light circling the bottom of it, and in the middle of the craft there was like a flashlight, like a flash, like someone who had a camera and was taking a picture with a flash, and it flashed a couple times on the lake. So the craft, I go, wow, what is that thing? It wasn't a helicopter because we could have heard the rotors. Certainly wasn't an airplane. It made like a really slight humming sound, and we stood there and watched it for probably a good 5 minutes. And we realized, wow, man, that's a flying saucer. And we were definitely sure it was a flying saucer, because when you see something like that, it's like, wow. So anyway, and then it moved slowly to the right, slowly, very slow, and in an instant, it was gone, just gone. And so we were like, oh my God. So we went to the local reporter, the fellow that Mr. Richards, I think his name was. We told him what we saw, and of course he kicked us out and thought we were like crazy, right? And so after that, for like a couple of months, maybe longer, and remember, I'm like 13 years old here, 12 or 13, and I'd had these incredible, recurring, very conscious dreams that I'd wake up and look out my bedroom window, and I'd run down to the backyard, and I'd see these flying saucers, all different kinds, with lights coming and landing. I was terrified, but yet I was excited, intrigued. And then the next thing I know, I was inside the craft. It was all white, and I was on this like stretcher or like bed, and these couple of alien people were looking over me. And then the next thing you know, I'd like wake up, and that occurred probably about 5 or 6 times. And I remember one of them said, I could hear them say that, okay, just let him go now, something like that. And they also said that I'll never look my age, something like that. And that happened, and then it was like gone, right? So I'm thinking, wow, man, did that really happen? Was it a dream? Around that time, in the newspaper, there were newspaper articles about UFOs seen over Seneca Lake. right?
There were?
Yes.
I
And
never heard this before.
oh yeah, you can Google it. I just downloaded and have copies of it. So it's like, yeah, so I'm thinking maybe they probably have some kind of, through the years I read about articles where they would set up a base underwater, okay? There were many articles in relation to that phenomena. But so I'm thinking, so it's like, hey, who knows? Maybe they had a base underwater because down the lake there was Sampson Air Force Base where there was a big Navy station. I think the Navy had some secret weaponry or something going on down there because you couldn't get on the base. It was like, how do you classify it? Now it's like a big camping area. You can go camping. But at any rate, so over the years, I was like watching all these shows and listening to these people getting abducted and everything else. And by the way, I was like paralyzed in this ship. I couldn't move. I could see them and understand them and listen to them. It was like telepathically, I could hear them, talking. Anyway, throughout the years, as I became interested in UFOs and all that, I was like, yeah, man, it probably did happen.
Oh, I have so many questions. How far out would you say the airship was? Like,
I would say it was probably maybe 60, 70, 80 feet from us. So it was rather close.
Wow, that is close.
But it was up in the air, okay? But it wasn't that high up, so we could see everything, The whole thing, it was like, wow, man, this is like, what is holy God, It was like pretty, somebody who's like 12, 13 years old, it's like, And I'm thinking, we were talking, we said, well, I don't hear this. It's not a helicopter because you can't hear and it can be an airplane, right?
Right? It was hovering, correct?
It was hovering, yes.
And it had, you said, the different colored lights, and then it was flashing like a flash bulb on an old-fashioned camera periodically?
Yeah, like in the middle of the ship, there was like a flash, right? Like they took a picture of the water. But around the craft itself, I had different colored lights, red, blue, yellow, green, orange. I can't remember exactly what they were, okay? And they were like flashing. And in the middle of the... they're going like on and off. On the bottom of the craft, okay, there was like a flash, right? Like a flash, like they took it like a giant camera taking a couple pictures, right? They just took taking a couple of pictures from a flash camera.
And what was the shape of the object again? Was it round?
It was round. Really, yeah, just round.
So in other words, like your classic
disc shape.
Disc flying saucer shape that we think of when we think of a flying saucer, it was like that?
Yes.
Okay, and can I just ask too, what was your friend's first name? I don't want you to give his full name, but...
Rick. His name is Rick.
Are you still friends with him today?
Yeah, he lives, I think, in New England someplace, or Michigan, but he comes here periodically, once every couple of years. He used to come here often, but his father was an English teacher at Watkins High School.
Did you ever discuss this again?
Away, but he'd always confront me when he was alive. I said, that story about your son and I seeing the flying saucer? He goes, yes, he told me about it,
So as adults, you and Rick did discuss this periodically, correct?
Yeah, whenever I'd see him, I go, hey, Rick, remember we saw that flying saucer? He goes, yeah, He says, yeah, that was, I don't know where his head was at because I haven't known him for so many years, But he just commented, yeah, that was something, like that was something, yeah. But, he didn't seem as enamored about it as I am, or I was.
So what I'm hearing, Steve, is that you and Rick, when you were 12 or 13, were at the pier near the marina, where the famous pier is, now where Captain Bill's launch is, where the Glen Harbor Hotel is, right there, right? And that's where you saw it. It was dark. Were there any other people around?
No one was around.
What do you think that craft was doing?
I think it was probably investigating the lake, investigating the area. I think it might have, because in the newspapers they had flying saucers seen over Seneca Lake. I think they were probably on some type of reconnaissance, because the lake is extremely deep. It's so deep that, Navy ships have sent sonar down And when sonar goes down real and it hits something, it bounces back up. Well, sometimes I was reading that it never really bounced back up. That's how deep it was. So maybe they were planning on having a base underwater. Who knows? Now, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to Google flying saucers over Seneca Lake, and if you Google flying saucers over Seneca Lake, maybe it'll bring up that news article.
I found the article. Let's see. It looks like they have a chart. 2001 to 2015 sightings. So yours would have been prior to that. You said 1981,
1962, 61, 62.
Oh, 1960. Okay, where did I get 1980? So you're in your 70s now, correct, Steve?
74 years old.
74, and this happened in 1962 or 1963 when you were 12 or 13.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I actually brought up the article one time. I can't find it, but it's here. I actually have a book. I got to find it. UFOs over the Finger Lakes.
Okay. I'm very interested in that. Also, let's just go back one more thing with you think you were abducted after that sighting?
Well, I'm thinking, I go, so because it's like, I'm going, and then I have these incredible, realistic encounters, like I wake up and I go out the backyard and I see these, oh my God. It was like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, here they come again. Okay, I'm saying to myself, here they come again. These ships, about hundreds of them, okay? We're literally hundreds of them in the sky, landing in my backyard. And it's like, holy, I'm thinking, I gotta wake my parents up. How come nobody can see it, right? So I'm like terrified, and I'm thinking, then I'm like totally excited about it, right? And they're all like lit up, right? And they're coming down, and as I'm in the backyard looking at them, next thing you know, I'm like in the ship, right? And these aliens are like over me, and doesn't last very long, but every time I'm like abducted, if I was abducted, who knows? But it was the same kind of encounter, right? The same thing.
Can you remember what the creatures look like? Because I have a classic idea. They're like the grays, right? With the big eyes. Is that what you saw, or do you remember?
Yes, but they had, I recall, they had like a helmet. Like one had I can remember had like a red helmet, okay? And they had almost like white cloaks, like a doctor cloak, okay? But they did have alien features.
Okay.
There were two of them. Yeah. So they had some kind of garment on, right? And I think I'm recalling, all I can recall is that they had like a red head helmet and like a doctor's coat, like a white, some type of clothing, okay? And checking me out, looking at me, and they kind of, they didn't do too, and I have this thing they did something to my shoulder, right? And I've had this little ball near my shoulder, right?
Little ball? Do you mean like an implant of some sort?
Yeah. And I went to the doctor, and they didn't know what it was. They thought it was they couldn't figure out what it is, but you can feel it. It's like hard. And I remember them touching me there, right? So I'm thinking, over the years, I'm thinking, wow, what is that, man? Maybe that's how they keep their eyes on me or something, Don't know.
Have you had any unusual health problems throughout your life related to that, or in general? You said they promised you long life or something like that. Is that true, or?
They said, no, you will not look your age.
You will, okay. Well, you certainly don't look your age, right, Steve?
No, people think I'm in my 50s. But no, it's like I look 20 years younger sometimes. But the thing is, people, they say, what are you like, 50? Yeah, I'm 50. So I don't tell them how old I am. But so I'm thinking, man, I'm 74, but I don't really feel 74. I feel like, a lot younger. Anyway, so that's very interesting.
Okay. And I guess that's it, Steve. Thank you so much for telling us this story. And I'm going to turn this into a podcast. and it'll be part of the Seneca Lake History and Mysteries channel that I do. Okay. So
Okay.
thank you very much. So there you have it. What do you think? I mentioned this to somebody over dinner tonight, and she's from Seneca Lake, and she said, oh yeah, lots of people have seen sightings of UFOs over Seneca, like it was no big deal. So listen to this article. Perhaps one of the most famous local sightings came from Newark Valley near Binghamton, New York, where national attention was focused on this area when a dairy farmer named Gary T. Wilcox reported on April 24th, 1964, that he had been visited by occupants of a flying saucer. Newsmen who spoke with Wilcox were impressed by his down-to-earth credibility as he told them about the 20-foot-long aluminum-like object that he had spotted glowing in a field. Near it, he said, there were two men about 4 feet tall, wearing seamless clothing with hoods over their heads. The farmer said they appeared to be taking soil samples when he saw them. In smooth English, with voices that seemed to come from their bodies rather than their heads, which to me sounds like telepathy, they requested fertilizer. He went into a barn a mile away to get some, but when he returned, they were gone. However, he left it in the field and it was gone the next day. So here's another sighting from that newspaper article dated October 21st, 1973 in the Elmira Star-Gazette newspaper. 3 carpenters working alongside Seneca Lake caused a stir in August 25th, 1952, when they reported to a Horsehead State Police that they had spotted a UFO as it plunged into the lake, sending water at least 10 feet into the air. The workmen, Ray Andrew, Alfred Sullivan, and Clayton Kraut, said the splashdown occurred about 150 feet off the shore near Glen Eldridge, about 5 miles north of Watkins Glen. Police said they did not intend to grapple for the object. In Chemung County, which is just south of the Watkins Glen area, there were many other local sightings in the region that were talked about in this newspaper article from 1963. There was even a minister and his wife and a teenager who reported on it, and their report was seen to be very credible. Sheriffs, deputies, and others confirmed the report and even said that they followed it for a while. It traveled about 25 miles an hour until it zipped off and disappeared. So what do you think? Could so many people be possibly lying? And is there a connection between the UFO sightings over the lake and abductions? And also, apparently, some people witnessed the UFOs going into the water. Do you have any stories to share? Please get a hold of me. I can interview you anonymously if you like. Thanks for watching.